The next time you play 18 holes, pay attention to the first fairway before you take your shot. That grass isn't green because someone threw down a Scott's bag. It doesn't hold that color through heat, through foot traffic, through drought stress, because of a 4-step consumer program. Golf course superintendents, guys who are accountable every single morning for what 150 acres of turf looks like, they don't buy from the lawn care aisle at Home Depot. They haven't for the last 100 years. There is a product that has been on the grounds crew's supply list since before your father was born. $12 for a 50-pound bag at any feed store in the country. At 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet, that bag covers the same area as a $45 bag of Scott's Turf Builder. Same coverage, a third of the price, and it contains a compound that every synthetic fertilizer on the Home Depot shelf, including Scott's, doesn't have at all. I'm going to give you the product name, where to get it, and exactly how to apply it. But first, you need to understand what Scott's has been selling you, and why the result always fades right when you think you've finally figured it out. Stay with me to the end. I'm going to show you how golf course groundskeepers turn this same $12 bag into a liquid feed that shows visible results in 5 to 7 days. No spreader, just a bucket and a pump sprayer. It's a technique they've been running on greens and tees for decades. Most homeowners have never heard of it. Scott's Miracle Grow is a $3.8 billion publicly traded company, ticker symbol SMG. They own Scott's, they own Miracle Grow, they own Ortho, they own the Consumer Roundup line, they own Tomcat. If it's on the lawn care aisle at Home Depot, there's a better than even chance that Scott's Miracle Grow owns the brand name on the bag. In 2012, they paid a $12.5 million federal fine after admitting they'd sold wild bird seed coated with pesticides that were toxic to birds and falsified EPA registration numbers on their own products for years. That's not an allegation. That's a federal admission. It's public record. That's the company giving you lawn care advice. Now here's how Scott's Turf Builder actually works and why the result never holds. Scott's Turf Builder uses synthetic nitrogen, primarily urea, sometimes ammonium sulfate depending on the formulation. When synthetic nitrogen hits your lawn, it does exactly one thing: it greens up fast. You see it in 10 days. The lawn looks better. You feel like the purchase was worth it. 6 to 8 weeks later, it's gone. Not stored in the soil, not building anything below the surface. Gone. Leached out with rain, volatilized in heat. Moved through the root zone before the grass had time to do much with it. Penn State's Turf Grass Extension Program has published on synthetic urea nitrogen release behavior extensively. It spikes fast, it doesn't last, and it's out of the root zone in 45 to 60 days. There's something else happening below the surface that the bag doesn't mention. Synthetic nitrogen, especially repeated applications of urea, gradually acidifies the soil. It feeds the grass leaf without feeding the soil biology. Earthworm populations decline. The beneficial microbial community that makes nutrients available to roots gets suppressed. You're not building a lawn. You're borrowing one 6 weeks at a time, while quietly making the soil underneath it worse. So the lawn fades. You buy another bag. That's not a side effect of synthetic fertilizer. That is the product design. A homeowner who builds his soil once, who stops needing to buy bags every 6 weeks, is a customer Scott's never sees again. The release rate, the formulation, the concentration, all of it reflects a revenue model, not a lawn model. You've probably spent $200, maybe $300 on Scott's products in a single season. Green for a month, fade, rebuy. That cycle is not your fault. That is exactly what the product was designed to produce. If you're new here, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of thing I cover every week. The product golf course superintendents have used for 100 years is alfalfa, not an extracted compound, not a reformulation with a brand name on the front. alfalfa meal or alfalfa pellets. Same material, different grind. It's sold at feed stores and rural co-ops as horse and rabbit feed, 50 pounds for $12, available in every state in the country. Here's what it has that Scott's Turf Builder doesn't. Alfalfa meal runs roughly 3% nitrogen, 1% phosphorus, 2% potassium. That NPK isn't remarkable on paper. But the nitrogen in alfalfa is protein-bound, locked inside plant material that soil microbes have to break down before it releases. That process takes 8 to 12 weeks. Your lawn gets a slow, even feed across a full growing window instead of a spike that fades in 6. The soil biology does the work of timing the release. You're working with the soil instead of around it. At 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet, a 50-pound bag covers 10,000 square feet. That's the same coverage as the $45 Scott's bag, $12. But coverage and NPK aren't the reason golf course superintendents have been reaching for it for 100 years. There's a compound in alfalfa called Triacontanol. It's a naturally occurring plant growth regulator, a long-chain fatty alcohol found in the leaf wax of the alfalfa plant. USGA Green Section, research and university turf grass programs have documented its effects on turf grass. Triacontanol stimulates root development. It increases chlorophyll production. It improves the grass plant's ability to take up nutrients already present in the soil profile. It isn't in Scott's Turf Builder. It isn't in any synthetic fertilizer on the Home Depot shelf. It only exists in the plant material itself, and that's why the $12 feed store bag produces results the $45 synthetic bag structurally cannot. Golf course superintendents don't have the luxury of a mediocre result. If the fairway is off color on a Tuesday morning, he hears about it before the first tee time. These guys manage turf for a living, and they've been reaching for alfalfa for 100 years, not because it was cheap, though it is, but because it builds the kind of lawn that holds. Deep root development, consistent color that doesn't spike and crash, soil biology that compounds from one season to the next instead of declining. That's what the fairway has. And it isn't coming from the Home Depot lawn aisle. You can order alfalfa pellets on Amazon. Search alfalfa pellets 50 pounds, and you'll find several options in the $10 to $14 range. But a local feed store or rural co-op will almost always have it for less, and you can usually pick it up the same day. Walk in, ask for alfalfa pellets. That's it. If they ask what it's for and you tell them your lawn, you won't be the first person to have that conversation. Links to what I recommend are in the description. I do get a small commission if you buy through them, but I only recommend what I've seen work, and this is something I'd put down before anything on the Scott's shelf. Here's exactly how to apply it. Rate: 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. That's the number, not a dusting. Not roughly 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. If your lawn is 6,000 square feet, you're putting down 30 pounds per application, a little over half the bag. Equipment: a broadcast spreader. Set it to medium-low and run 2 passes, one north to south, one east to west. The cross pattern keeps distribution even. If you're using pellets, they'll flow through a broadcast spreader cleanly. Alfalfa meal is finer. If you've got meal rather than pellets, a drop spreader handles it better on smaller areas, or you can broadcast by hand on a calm day without much trouble. Timing matters. Apply when soil temperatures are above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 50, the microbial activity that breaks down the protein nitrogen drops off, and if the biology isn't active, the slow release mechanism doesn't work. You're just putting material on top of cold ground. For most of the country, late March to mid-April in the south, April into early May in the Midwest and Northeast. Apply again in September before the fall growth window closes and temperatures drop back down. 2 applications per year is enough to see a real difference in color and density. 3 if you want to accelerate the soil building. Don't apply during sustained July or August heat. Not because it'll burn the lawn, it won't. There's no synthetic nitrogen to burn, but because microbial activity slows in extreme heat the same way it slows in cold. You won't get the release you need until the soil comes back down to a workable temperature. Water it in after application. You want about a ½ inch, enough to begin the decomposition process and get the material in contact with the soil surface where the biology lives. Light irrigation works. A rain event within 24 hours works. What you don't want is a heavy downpour in the first few hours before the pellets have had any time to start breaking down in place. One common mistake: mowing too short before you apply. Scalping the lawn before an organic application removes the thatch layer that holds moisture and creates the microenvironment where decomposition happens most efficiently. Keep your mowing height at 3 to 3½ inches going into application week. Let the canopy be there when the material goes down. That's the full protocol. 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Broadcast spreader. Cross pattern pass. Water in. Spring and fall. $12. Now here's what I mentioned at the start. The same $12 bag also makes a liquid feed. Golf course groundskeepers worked this out a long time ago. They call it Alfalfa Tea, and they use it on greens and tees, where a precise, fast liquid application is easier to manage than a broadcast spread. It works faster than the dry application because the nutrients are already in solution when they hit the soil. You'll see results in 5 to 7 days instead of 2 to 3 weeks. Here's how to make it. Take 1 cup of alfalfa meal. Loose meal works better than pellets for this method. And add it to 5 gallons of water in a clean bucket. Stir well. Let it sit for 24 hours, stirring occasionally. 48 hours gives you a stronger brew. The water will turn a greenish brown. That's the Triacontanol and the soluble nutrients going into solution. After the soak, strain it through mesh or an old pillowcase into a second bucket. What you have goes into a standard pump sprayer without clogging the nozzle. Apply at about 1 gallon per 1,000 square feet. One 5-gallon batch covers 5,000 square feet. Walk your grid at a slow, even pace. Apply in the early morning or evening, not midday in direct sun, which causes the liquid to volatilize off the leaf before the tissue can absorb it. If you don't expect rain in the next 24 hours, give it a light water in to carry it into the soil. 1 cup of meal, 1 5-gallon bucket. The $12 bag is still sitting in your garage, with enough left for the next 6 dry applications on top of whatever tea you've brewed. That's what the grounds crew figured out on the Fairway. It just never made it to the Home Depot shelf because there's no margin in a technique that costs a cup of feed and a bucket of water. That's alfalfa meal. The $12 feed store bag golf course superintendents have been using for 100 years, while Scott's built a $3.8 billion company convincing you to spend $45 for less. If this is the first time you've heard about it, you now know why it wasn't on the label. Subscribe if you want more. I put out a new video every week, and if your problem isn't feeding the lawn, but stopping the weeds that keep coming back no matter what you spray, I cover the professional herbicide that actually works in the next one, the one they don't carry at Home Depot. Links to everything I mentioned are in the description.